64% of Americans own a home right now. But we look deeper into this and we're like, hold on. 56% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in their savings account. So how does 64% of people own a home? To me, that looks like people are just buying homes without actually thinking about the budget behind it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 14 of Rookie Mondays. Today we'll be discussing renting versus buying and which one is better for you. And you definitely want to stick around to the end because our answer might surprise you. So let's get right into it, bro.
All right, so right now I know you guys are feeling the cost of rent going up. It seems like rent has actually gone up over 14% in the country on average. Then you have cities like Manhattan where you're paying $3,700 per rent a month.
That's crazy, bro.
So when you compare that to how much home prices have increased, which is 18% in the year, you're like, yo, this makes sense to just buy a home because I don't want to waste money on rent. But then there's a side of rent when you think about it, it's like, yo, I could just pay money and then move around. I'm not stuck to one spot, which could be considered a pro. However, you have to dig into it to see what is actually the right answer. So let's talk about home ownership as a percentage, because this number might actually shock you a little bit.
Yeah, listen, 64% of Americans own a home right now. But we look deeper into this and we're like, hold on. 56% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in their savings account. So how does 64% of people own a home? To me, that looks like people are just buying homes without actually thinking about the budget behind it. And we know that mortgage debt is by far the biggest debt in the country. So people are just buying homes, but not having the finances to maintain that home.
Right. And I think the biggest thing there, you said it perfectly, bro. People are buying homes and not considering the actual home buying process and the money that comes along with that. So when you buy a home, you have to think about down payment of mostly 20%, which people do. But then there's also closing costs. So closing costs are essentially fees that you pay throughout the home buying process to actually own that property. So when you think about it, the average of the closing cost is between 3% to 6%. So if you actually own a home for $100,000 and you're like, yo, I'm about to put 20% down, that means 20K is gone. I'm not great at math, so I have to ask him. But 3 to 6% is what, 3,000, 6,000? So you have to add that on top of the down payment, and then you have to consider the interest that you pay to the bank because they're lending you money, right? Yeah. Well, the interest rate right now is above 5% on a 30-year fixed mortgage. And it's only going up because it seems like the government is saying, yo, we're about to increase interest rates. Yeah. So that's another thing you have to factor. But what if you don't put 20% down, right? What if you put 10%? You have to pay something called the PMI. So you want to explain what that means?
Yeah, PMI is private mortgage insurance. And it's something that the bank uses to make sure they get a return on their loan. Right? Because they don't know if you get a default on your payments. What if you can't pay them back? They want to make sure that they have an insurance for themselves. And that's all it is. And so right now, the average PMI is between 0.58% to 1.86% of the loan amount divided into monthly payments. All right, so you have to pay that on top of your mortgage and everything we just talked about if you put less than 20% down on your house. And then once you get up to 20%, yeah, PMI will fall off. But if you're one of the people that got an FHA loan, your PMI is there for the life of the loan. So you might want to think about refinancing just as a side point.
FHA, I know people are taking advantage of that too, because if you're a first-time home buyer, it's a great program, right? You can put 3.5% down and you're good. But as Rel just said, you want to be careful of the payment that you have to pay in terms of interest. But it's not only interest, it's not only the down payment, and it's not only the closing costs. You also have to think about what happens if something goes wrong with the home. So right now, if you are renting, do you have to worry about something goes wrong with your property?
No, not at all.
If something happens to your apartment, like there's a leak, do you pay for it?
That's my landlord's business.
What about something's wrong with the kitchen, bro?
My landlord's business.
Exactly. So everything is on landlord. However, if you own the home, you have to actually cover that. So right now, the rule of thumb is you have to have $1,000, which is 1% usually of that $100,000 home that we used as an example earlier, to cover anything that goes wrong. So just in case you buy a home, make sure you have between 1% to 4% of money to cover any expenses that could possibly come up because of repair. So you have to have that on top of everything we mentioned. So if you don't have that budget right now, you probably shouldn't be looking to buy a home, right?
Exactly.
So we're not saying, remember, don't buy a home. We're not saying that. We're saying make sure you have enough in your account. And for those who do have enough in their account, but they're worried because of a possible recession kicking in, well, you might want to stick around to the end because we're about to tackle that right now and the advantages of owning a home. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about advantages, man. So first of all, something that comes to mind is tax advantages. So tax advantages, think about it. Homeowners can deduct home mortgage interest. They could deduct home equity loans. They could deduct the interest from your HELOCs, which is a home equity line of credit. Mm-hmm. You could deduct mortgage points. You could deduct your PMI. The PMI we just talked about. You can actually deduct that off your taxes. You also can deduct your state and local taxes. Those are called SALT deduction. All right, so there's a bunch of tax benefits to owning real estate. Like that's some of the biggest like pulls for people who advocate for real estate. Yeah. Are those tax advantages. And then we talk about recessions now. Like, because everybody's worried about that, right? They want to know, man, it's a recession coming. Should I get into home ownership? In the past 5 recessions, home prices have typically gone up in the majority of them. All right, the only ones where they didn't go up in was the Great Recession of 2008.
Yep.
And then also in 1990, home prices dropped about 0.9%. So they barely came down. And one thing I love about real estate is these home prices recover fairly quickly. So now if you look at this chart, you can see home prices have typically gone up a great amount over time. Like that's a beautiful chart. When you see a chart looking like that, oh my gosh, that's what we love when it comes to being an investor. So you can see it's clearly a great store of value.
Right. I think the biggest thing about real estate as a pro is not only does it go up in value for a majority of cases, as we've seen, but it's amazing when it comes to passive income. We spoke about this earlier. If you are buying a home as an asset, right, you're buying it because it adds value to your life and you want to invest in it, it's a great tool to make passive income. A lot of millionaires have actually said they make passive income, which then leads to them becoming millionaires. So why would you not follow the same strategy if you could afford to buy a home? On top of that, you already mentioned the HELOC. If you have enough money in your home right now, you could take a loan against it to then use it to buy other assets. Yep. So it makes sense as a full circle because home ownership does lead to becoming millionaires. I believe the stat is 90%.
Yep, 90.
So 90% of millionaires have said that owning a home has contributed to them becoming millionaires. So as we always say, follow the money. Mm-hmm. If a bunch of millionaires are doing this, why would we not do it?
For real.
Now, the other piece that you have to think about with home ownership is, this is our opinion now that we're going to talk about, you have to make sure you look at your budget. So I know we said this a lot in the video, but make sure you're not just buying a home to chase the clout. You know, you don't want to get that like on Instagram. You don't want to go crazy on Twitter. It's about you, yourself, and your budget. So make sure you get that stuck in your head.
Yeah, for real. And then I think about this. In these times right now in the economy, we see inflation is at like record highs, right? It hasn't been as high since like 1980. So this is a time period where if you see in 2021, inflation was 7%. But we just said in 2021, home prices went up 18.8%. So clearly owning a home is a beautiful place to beat inflation, right? That's why they say it's a hedge against inflation. Right. So it's something else to consider when we're talking about buying real estate.
Exactly. So obviously, there's a lot of pros to real estate when it comes to owning, and there are some pros when it comes to renting. But we're always going to be on the side of you should be a homeowner if you can actually afford to do so, not just because, interest rates are low. Because we just went over a bunch of things like closing costs, like PMI, like actually repair costs that you have to think about, which most people ignore. So make sure you calculate all of that, and we have a template for you to use where you can put all the numbers in possible, and that will let you know if you should be buying a home. If the color is green, you want to buy it. If the color is red, you do not want to buy it. It's very simple. We're going to go over that template for you, so make sure you check that out as well. But make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the video. If you're still watching, thank you, and hit that little notification bell because we drop
2 videos a week
and you do not want to miss them. But we're going to check you on Wednesday, so make sure you check that out. But until then, peace.